We're live. There we go. Hi guys, welcome to the show. This is our sort of bi-weekly slot now on a Thursday where I get another reseller on and have a chat. And I'm pleased to say managed to get John on today. John, Cincinnati picker. Do you want to say a quick hello?
Hey everybody, like he said, I am John, Cincinnati picker. I am really pleased to be with these guys today. I feel honored. These two are these guys are juggernauts, man. I enjoy both of your channels, and the video you did where you visited Zahir was just amazing.
Yeah,
That was a lot of fun. I could tell how excited you were to go up there. It was awesome.
that was a great time. I'll tell you what, I've been called many things, John, but Juggernaut is not one of them.
No, I think your channel speaks for itself, man. I mean, all the subscribers you've got, you sold an Atari game for 5,000 pounds. You had 500 people watching the live sale of it. Like that's really impressive.
Yeah. And how are you, Zahir? We've got Zahir with us to join in and hang out. How are you?
I'm good. I couldn't give up this opportunity. I was like, when Nick told me that he had John Cincinnati picker, and I was like, definitely, just because of how unique the way he does things is, and I'm sure we're going to get into that as well. So I'm just excited to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Exactly. We will in a second. I'm going to dip into the chat and say a few hellos. If you don't follow John's channel, there will be a link below to that anyway. John is a reseller, but he does things in his own very unique way, and I find it fascinating. So we're going to dip into that in a bit and find out all about John's business. But first off, let's see who was first in. There's 95472 pickers was number one today. And then we've got Owly Boy, Adam, CYBK, lots of people popping in and saying hello. I think I actually saw John in the chat before we went live as well.
Yeah. Lonnie is in here. Ronnie Heart Pickers is in here as well. So the US are definitely popping in. Mothership Products as well.
Wayne, the six-pack guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And Chad Golden Finger Picker as well. Yeah. So yeah, definitely a lot of people already in.
Great to see everybody in. So as a kind of opener, John, how long have you been reselling, and how did that start? And then when did your reselling morph into the business you have now, which is your own? Well, you can touch on what it has become. So how long is that period of time to get to where you are now in reselling?
Yeah, I've been reselling for about 15 years. I started about 16, 17 years old, and I was working at a sporting goods store. And what I would do is I would go out and buy used sporting goods and bring it into the store and make money at it. And as I did it more and more, I learned there was a lot of other things that I could be buying and making money on. So it kind of morphed into that. And I went full-time about 3.5 years ago, and I did one full year, full-time, selling on eBay and Craigslist and all that. And I noticed, there were some online auction websites in Cincinnati that were doing really well. And I'm thinking, man, I could do this, and I could make it a little bit better too. So I took the plunge, April of 2015, and made my own website and made it unique, and started selling a lot of my own stuff on there. And people started bringing me stuff, and now I'm getting ready to cross over 200 consigners that bring me stuff, all the time, to where I sell their stuff too.
Okay. So give us a bit of for those that don't know how it works. You say you've got your own auction site, so you have a website, but then you run a live auction. Do people turn up to the auction, or do they bid online? How have you got it set up? How does that work?
It is actually all online. So it's all on my website. Look what I found.bid. You bid online, and then you pick up in person, and we do previews too, so people can come in and see the stuff before they actually bid on it.
Okay. And we've seen, if you follow John's channel as I do, you see that you do some great videos where you go out picking. So how much of the stuff do you put into the auction that's yours, and how much is, as you say, from your consigners? So people give it to you to sell. What's the ratio there?
I'd say maybe 25% of it's mine, and the rest is consigners. When I first started, it was about 100%. I didn't get any consigners for a while. I had to establish some business, and I'd only do 100 or so items a week, but now I'm doing about 400 items a week. So a lot of that is consignor driven, and it's just nice to have consistency with people bringing stuff, and there's always a variety. That's what I love, and I think that's what my bidders love too. Is every week you don't know what's coming in the door, and it's always something different, and people are always bringing in really cool stuff. And I think that's what's really helped us grow so much.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just trying to get my head around when you started. It must have been a kind of nerve-wracking time, because you haven't got any bidders lined up necessarily, and you don't know if you're going to get any stuff brought to you. So was that a nerve-wracking time, and how did you promote it to get the ball rolling, to build it?
Yeah, it was very nerve-wracking and very costly too. I lost a lot of money there for a while.
Yeah.
To get the ball rolling, I did anything and everything. I mean, I would put ads on Craigslist, different auction websites. I would go to flea markets and just talk about it with people. I'd get their email addresses, and I kind of built up an email list so that when I had my first auction, I sent out a blast to everybody like, hey, the first auction's up, and I kind of got some bidders that way. But, little by little, it grew by word of mouth.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mention like just the risk involved and like the worry at first. I mean, it must have been like resetting yourself, because you've started picking and reselling like a lot of us other guys, but then you've kind of had to just reset yourself. And like you said, you lost some money, but it's like being a different part of the food chain almost, isn't it? I think that's quite a unique perspective. And you said you've now got 200 people who are the consignors. Does that mean that those 200 people that regularly bring you stuff and you just take a cut from that, or do you,
right.
or do they have the option of you just buying stuff from them and then auctioning?
Yeah, yep. So the consignors are the people that bring me stuff. I'd say on a regular basis, I get maybe 50. Some of them are one-timers. Some of them come back, months later. But yeah, what I do is I take 30%, so they bring me the items. Usually they're fine with it, just letting it go through the auction, because they know they'll get more money that way. And sometimes it's hard to gauge what it'll sell for. So I kind of like the idea of getting that guaranteed 30% instead of risking it and buying it. But yeah, it's definitely different. Yeah, I remember when we first started, it was one of those things where if I had good items, I knew I wouldn't get full value for them if I put them on my website, but I also didn't want to have junk on my website. So I kind of bit the bullet and, took pennies on the dollar for some stuff, and people got deals, and then they kept coming back. And that's kind of how I built some loyal customers.
Yeah, because instantly when I was thinking through logically how it would work, starting an auction site with not many people knowing about it, as you just explained, people would get bargains because nobody's there to outbid them. But then again, as you said, if you're happy to swallow that, and then people will think, I'm going back there because there's good stuff and I can get it cheap, and then it naturally builds around that. So
yeah,
wow, hats off for you taking that gamble. And that's what life's about. That's what business is about. And yeah, I admire that.
Yeah, it is.
I noticed that your website as well, it's like, obviously it's like Cincinnati based. Like, do you offer viewing days as well for people, or is it just a case of it's just online with the photos that you show, or can local people pop in and see the stuff as well, like they could on a standard auction?
Yeah, we do. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays are our preview days, and they're also our pickup days. So people come in, they pick up the stuff from the previous week, and then they preview what's in the current auction, and then they can go home and bid.
I just saw in the chat, who is it? Who wants my t-shirt? Chad?
Chad, the Golden Finger Picker, says he wants Nick's shirt.
Oh, well, everything has a price, Chad.
Yeah.
Excellent.
He actually bought my shirt on Mothership Products channel. I don't know if you caught that, but it sold for like $85 or $86 or something.
For a shirt?
Yeah, a t-shirt. It was Saturday night. Yeah, that was crazy.
I haven't caught that up yet. No, I'm going to watch that soon. But yeah, it's amazing what Dwayne is managing to achieve over there. With his
he's doing some really cool stuff. Very unique setup for sure.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, John, I saw a really cool video. I think your dad's been in a couple actually, where your dad's there with you unloading the van and talking about the stuff. How involved is your dad in it, or was he part of the inspiration for getting into auctions, or what's his role in the whole thing?
Yeah, he's always bought and sold, pretty much his whole life. It's just kind of in his blood, I think.
Yeah.
And when I first started garage sailing, he encouraged me a lot and would help me along with things. And now what he does is he'll go to garage sales too, and he'll go to one side of town, and I'll go to another side of town, and he'll bring me stuff to sell. And he's a big help with all of it.
So does he put it in as a consignor, or does he just buy the stuff and then give it to you to sell? Is he trying to make on it as well, or is it just part of the business?
Yeah, he puts it in as a consignor. He'll give me like a better cut, than I normally get from a consignor.
Okay.
So yeah, I definitely make out on the better end of that deal for sure.
And then Whitney, your wife, how involved is she? Does she have her own job, or how's the setup there?
Yeah, she has her own full-time job. What she does is a lot of learning development. So she creates programs for her company, training and development. And she does a lot too. She loves the garage sale. That's in her blood too. She likes to find things that we need or gifts for people at a better price, as opposed to like the whole flipping thing. She's usually not finding stuff to make money on.
Yeah, I noticed that in the one I watched earlier today. She was finding stuff for family members and yourselves. Just picking up cool stuff.
Yeah, she's got a good eye for stuff.
I was just looking in the shirt. Somebody's nicked my line there. Who pays $85 for a boxy shirt? Exactly.
Yeah, well, there was a benefit. So there's a viewer, and she might watch you too. It's Julie Venerum. Her daughter was recently diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So we donated half of all the proceeds to her. So I think that was driving up a lot of the prices on the bids for sure.
Similar to what Chad did when he went on then.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yeah. Chad did the Wounded Warriors. They gave half the money to Wounded Warriors.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic idea, actually, isn't it? Because it just obviously promotes the price, and also it's going to a good cause. So it's win-win. Just a quick question, actually. Would you give, in terms of advice, say when you're looking at something to put on your auction site versus something you'd sell on eBay? I mean, what's your criteria for deciding what goes where?
So what I do is, if something's very niche and there's a very small market for it, I'll usually put it on eBay, because on my website we start everything at $1. Doesn't matter what it is, no reserves. We start it at $1, and we find people kind of fight it out. But if something's very niche and there's only a handful of people that want it, then I'm not going to get people to bid themselves up and fight over it. So just weird things like rare electronics, sometimes like shoes or clothing, things that have specific sizes don't always do well. Sometimes we'll go with eBay on that, but I don't do nearly as much eBay as I used to. A lot of it just goes on the site now.
Okay. I was going to say, you start everything at $1 with no reserve. Does that put people off? Do people, if they have what they think is a high value item, are they wary of putting it in because they've got no guarantee, and you've got no guarantee to them of what it will make? Have you had problems with that?
I did at first, but now that we've done it so long and we've got a history of our auctions, people see what things go for. And I'm always upfront and honest with people, because somebody will bring me something and they'll say, yeah, I'm hoping to get $500 for this. And I'll say, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near that. It'll probably be more like 100 or 200. So I really don't mislead anybody.
Yeah.
We've done 120 auctions now. So I've got a really good feel for what things are going to go for.
It's got to be something that you kind of have to be a fast learner to adopt, though, right? Because just what you were saying earlier as well about when you were deciding what goes on what platform, it must have been like a steep learning curve for you at the beginning, because obviously you didn't want to lose out on stuff. And now I'm just looking at what you've got on auction at the moment, and you can see that things do tend to pop off. I see you've got a Nintendo 64 there doing quite well already, with still 3 days to go as well.
Yeah, the video games always do well. Everybody loves the video games.
Yeah, I just think it's a fantastic thing that you've actually gone. And was it like maybe a partly a fear of playing in other people in another person's playground? When people always talk about you're playing in eBay sandbox or Amazon sandbox, is it the comfort of knowing that you're like in control of this website that kind of gave you the passion to pursue this? Or because a lot of us are just happy to play in eBay's playground or in Amazon's, aren't we? And
right. I think the biggest driver is that I would find so many things at garage sales and auctions and thrift stores that I couldn't really sell on eBay. Either there wasn't really the market for it, or that people didn't go to eBay for it, or I got tired of messing with Craigslist and all of that. And I could see the potential of the online auction, because there's one here local that has just absolutely exploded. It started in Cincinnati. Now it's all over the country. And it's a multi-million-dollar business. And I guess I just saw the potential of it.
Cool.
We've got a question in from Lisa for you, John. Says, what's the most expensive item you've sold at your auction?
That would be a Babe Ruth bat. So this little old lady brought me a whole bunch of boxes of stuff, and I pulled this bat out, and it was a Louisville Slugger Babe Ruth model. And we did some research on it and took a lot of photos, and it kind of dated back to like the early 1900s. Reason to believe it could have been issued to him. I'm not sure if that's the case. We don't authenticate to that degree to say, oh, okay, this was his bat. Something like that's kind of hard to prove. Yeah. But it sold for $777.
Wow. Was she amazed by that? Was she shocked? Did she have any idea?
Oh, yeah. She told me she almost threw it away. She was completely shocked by that.
That's a great story.
That actually leads me on to another question. When you've got something that you feel is special or a bit unique, what like extra steps do you take to promote it, just to make sure that it gets out to as many people?
So we do a couple things. There's a website called Auction Zip, and we can highlight things in the titles, so when people search it all around the country, they can find it. Another thing I like to do is I can make a Facebook ad from my business account, and I can choose who sees it. Okay, so if I've got coins, for example, I can put an ad on there, and I can say, okay, I want coin collectors to see this, and I can run it for 3, 5, 7 days, as long as I want, and I can pick my budget. So, if I want to invest $20, I know that 5,000 coin collectors are going to see this ad.
Oh, cool. So it really is showing that you've gone into a completely different sphere. So you're having to learn about like marketing, and like, I'm guessing that's like a Facebook ad thing you're talking about there, where to promote like a post.
So it's called a boost post. So you boost it, and then it'll say, do you want men and women, and what ages, and what interests, and there's all these different things you can pick. It's pretty user friendly the way they set it up.
So it's definitely thinking outside the box there, guys. That is some, pretty.
Yeah, on my Facebook page, which is just a reseller page, they're constantly pushing that on me, but I'm not trying to sell anything through mine. But I was just thinking you could spin that to promoting your own eBay listings if you really wanted to, couldn't you? You could push your own stuff out there, and then I guess
definitely,
like you said, if you've got a listing of coins or whatever, Facebook will then push that out to pages of coin collectors. I would assume that it's targeted that well.
Yeah, absolutely. They know, Facebook knows a lot about everyone, and they know what people like, and they do a lot of that. I'm seeing some questions in the chat about if I ship. I do ship. I don't always advertise that I ship. I've been burned. It's really tricky because somebody could get something for $10, and then I give them the shipping quote, and it's $30, and then there's this big fight, and they decide they don't want it anymore, and then they've got a bad experience. So I tend to ship, small items, things like that. But we do ship some on a regular basis. And anybody watching, if there's something you want to bid on, I'd say just, keep it small and lightweight, and we'll be happy to ship.
Yeah. Lonnie's got a question. Asks, what are some of the most challenging customer service issues you've had? There are lots of policies in place on eBay to cover most situations. Do you have a list of policies? That's actually a really good question, Lonnie.
Yeah, we do have a list of policies. So one big policy we have is when someone brings us items, they cannot bid on their own items. We have them sign a contract saying they will not bid to try to drive up the price, and I've caught somebody doing it. So yeah, we had to terminate that relationship real quick. And it's unethical, and it's not fair to the buyers because they're bidding against the owner. They're not bidding against a real bidder.
That's shill bidding, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. We don't do that, and I don't bid on any of my items. We don't do anything like that.
Yeah, eBay are very hot on that, as they should be as well. You can get your account closed down if you're found to be excuse me, boosting up your own items. I'm gonna have to go and get a glass of water, guys. Bear with me.
Okay,
no worries at all. No worries at all. Well, a few comments coming in. 10K on the base says, do you guys use standard eBay business policies? I mean, did you just? I suppose what you could take from that is like, did you just like see like a template somewhere from another auction house and adapt it to yourself, or was it a case of getting advice from someone, or to set this up? Because I mean, to a lot of people watching this is going to be really left field stuff, but you've pretty much set up your own platform, and it's kind of exciting actually. So
yeah, I saw how one company and some of the other companies were doing it in Cincinnati, and I wanted it to be different. I wanted wanted to design my own website. I wanted to have the types of items I wanted, and I really wanted to drive customer service because a lot of people I talked to that have dealt with some of the other companies just had a really bad experience. You know, it left a bad taste in their mouth. They felt like they were being nickeled and dimed to death. You know, they might have $20,000 worth of stuff. You know, they're selling their whole house and they're coming away with $3,000 or $4,000, and just really not sure how that was happening. So I just wanted to drive customer service and make sure everybody had a good experience with it.
That's actually a good angle to take as well, because I mean, obviously I'm not aware of like the US auction scene, but in the UK, I'm sure it's pretty similar, but you do have to be very careful. I mean, buyer beware tends to be quite an important thing. You know, everyone says make sure you view items because sometimes the descriptions aren't accurate, sometimes the photos aren't very good. So for you to kind of actually focus on providing a better service is actually quite a good angle. I wanted to actually ask, you said there's another company that does the same thing that they blew up. Like, apart from them, I mean, is the competition in your area, is there any other direct competition that you have in your area, or are you pretty much just you and this other company in terms of auction?
There are some other ones, but it's really not competition because most of the people that bid on these sites bid on multiple. Just kind of like eBay and Amazon. People buy from eBay and Amazon. So it's really just a matter of if we have something they want that given week that they'll bid on our site.
Cool.
There's a couple of questions that feed into my next question. Abdel says, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And Lisa also says, question, have you considered franchising your business model or spreading to other cities, which is basically what I was going to ask. Do you see this as something you can expand outside of the city, and how would you potentially expand if you could?
Yeah, definitely. I've been in talks with a few people about different locations in Cincinnati. So we're looking into that right now. It's tricky to find the right person that, you know, will treat your business the way you really want it handled. It's kind of like my baby. And I hate to just kind of hand over the keys of the car to somebody, but I do want to grow at the same time. But yeah, there's definitely potential for growth. Absolutely. And there's also the opportunity of cloning. There's a guy 2 miles down the road from me, and he wanted to start his own site. So we cloned my site for him. And, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, that's going to be competition. And we just haven't noticed. One hasn't changed anything. He's got his site, we've got ours, and people bid on each one of them.
And I suppose you can still always, like with anything, there's competition in any market. And I suppose where you differentiate yourself is how much effort you're putting in to get the best lots, to attract the best lots to yourself. Because we all know about the auction houses, which seem to get like the kind of lower end, the items that aren't so desirable. And then you see an auction just down the road that seems to always have better items because they've built those relationships, etc. So I suppose that's something that you can always use to differentiate yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, quality of the items is always a differentiator, and it's tough. It's hard to consistently get those great items. So I always try to get my items in. Some of the guys that work with me bring their items in. And I think what happens is when people bring in good items and they get good money for them, they're willing to bring in more good items. You know, that's a good experience for them. And I always tell people too, if you've got 10 items, 5 of them might sell for less than you expect, but those other 5 will probably sell for more than you expect. And usually it balances out.
I was going to ask you, just changing the subject slightly. You've started a YouTube channel fairly recently. And what was your inspiration to get involved in this mad world that we're all part of now on YouTube?
I wasn't even aware of this mad world, to be honest with you. I think it's been 3 months that I started this.
Yeah.
And it was actually a friend of mine mentioned, hey, have you ever seen this guy Craigslist Hunter on YouTube? And I said, no, I hadn't seen him. So I watched a few of his videos, and I was just really taken by it. I'm like, wow, this guy's, you know, doing some of the stuff I'm doing. Just thought it was really cool, and decided to start my own and kind of show some of the stuff I was doing. And it's just kind of taken off from there.
And do you think that YouTube could, if your channel expands and people find it, that you could use that as a promotional tool for what you do?
I think so. Yeah. I always try to show what I do. It's kind of hard to show the whole realm of it. And I've already seen a lot of good things come out of it that's come to my business. I've gotten bidders that have found me on YouTube. I've gotten some consigners that have brought me stuff that have found me on YouTube. I've had a lot of interest on people that either want to start their own auction website or they maybe want to partner up with me with my business. So it's brought a lot of attention to the business for sure.
Yeah. And are you from the same school of thought that Chad is, where it's about just be open about who you are and what you do? I think, don't you have a van that it's all plastered on the side of it what you do anyway?
Yeah, I am definitely in that school of thought. I didn't used to be. I used to be secretive, 3, 4, 5 years ago. I didn't tell people what I was doing at yard sales, and eventually I got that on my van, and now I tell everyone what I do, and most people kind of want to help. They're like, oh, okay, cool, I think I might have some of this stuff. Like, yeah, you can have this for less, because they know I'm trying to make money on it, and they kind of support the whole idea. There's obviously a small percentage that dislike resellers and don't want other people to make money on their stuff, but it's very few and far between.
I think that's what it is. We've all had that experience, that really awkward experience where somebody's very anti us because we're trying to profit on their stuff, and that sticks with you. But like you just explained, if you're open and you talk to people, you gain so much more from that. So yeah, I'm still sort of halfway between the two, to be perfectly honest.
And I always find it funny that people that tend to have that negative mindset, they also don't want to sell it for more money themselves. They just don't want you to sell it for more. They don't have the gumption or the will to go and sell it on eBay for that profit themselves. They just don't want anyone else to do it either. It's such a kind of it's just a horrible place to be, I think. I think, like, I wouldn't want to be like that, but I think it's a good point though, and it's a consistent theme that we've come across, especially when we've talked to you guys from the US. I think it's much more apparent that you guys are much more pro. I don't want to generalize like a whole nation like that either, but from the people that we've spoken to anyway, I mean, I think that's the case.
I just want to ask something. How do you copy those little comments down to the side there, John? I don't know how to do
Oh, yeah. I copy, and then if you go into so if you put your cursor over the window of the Hangout chat, there's a messages, and then you just copy and paste on that.
Over the window of the Hangout.
On the left-hand side, I think it's the messages chat.
It's the top left corner. There's a blue messenger.
Yeah,
and that'll open it, and then you copy and paste.
And that would just be between.
Yeah, someone asked, what do you say, or did you say when you explained you were a reseller, dealer, thrifter, hustler? It's easy now because I can just say I have an auction website, I sell all kinds of stuff, and they usually are very intrigued by it and want to know more. But before I had the website, I just would say like, oh, I sell on eBay, or I resell, and most people are cool with it.
I just wanted to ask the question that Dwayne asked in the chat. What would kind of be the rough startup costs of someone starting their own auction site? Obviously, you don't have to go into like detail, but just to give people an idea, because like I said, this is actually quite unique and cool. Yeah.
Depends on how you do it. The way I did it, I spent a lot more than I think somebody could now, especially like, the guy that we cloned it for, he got in a lot cheaper than what I have. I've invested $25,000 in my website, but I'm sure if somebody found a warehouse for a good price and some inventory and developed the website and software and everything, I think $10,000 is probably a good mark. It also depends on where you're at. Warehouse space in one city could be a lot more expensive than warehouse space in another city. Just kind of depends on how big you want to start when you go.
Fair enough. And I'm guessing a lot of that cost would be down to like the web development guys or whatever, the people that you pay to put it up, Yes,
definitely. Yeah, I'm lucky to have a really good web developer. Those guys are like mechanics. I mean, you're going to pay them to work on your website just like you will somebody in your car. And, you're looking at roughly $100 an hour, sometimes more, sometimes less. It just depends on how good a one you get.
But you want it to be slick and easy to navigate. All these little things, I suppose, that you have to think about that previously would not have occurred to you when you started your journey reselling.
Oh yeah, we've made so many changes to the website, and that's what I think a lot of people don't realize. Little things like we added a watch list feature, so now you can watch items on our site. Little things like that can add up. I mean, $500,000 to do little fixes to your website like that.
Wow.
We've had somebody asked a couple of times for you to pronounce. I don't know if you can see it in the chat there, John.
I do see it.
That's a county in England. How would you pronounce that county there?
I want to guess Leicestershire.
Wow, that's pretty bang on.
Yeah?
Yeah. Wow. Well, that failed. CYB. See, John. Excellent. There's a question coming for you there, John, from Doing It Yourself Lifestyle. They say, how big is your unit? You put everything.
Whoa.
Yeah, what
are we talking about here? What kind of viewers do you have, Nick?
I think they're talking about the warehouse, but we'll see what the question says. For viewing, did you buy it, rent it, or own it already? So they must be talking about the warehouse.
Yeah, the warehouse. My warehouse is 3,500 square feet, and I rent it.
Cool. And did you expand into that? Did you have somewhere smaller and then you just had to grow with it?
Yeah, our first spot was 2,000 square feet, and a lot of it was office space, and I hated the layout of it, but the price was right. And eventually it got to be where it was too small. It was always a workaround. It just didn't work. And now we've got this space. It's almost twice the size, but it's got very little office space and mostly a warehouse. So we've got everything organized. We've got it all set up to take more stuff in. It works out really well.
Yeah, I must admit, when I've seen those videos where you back your van and then you're just unloading, I'm just so jealous of that space.
Yeah.
You have, and you can lay it all out really neatly and organized. Well, you can see my chaos here. And I don't deal in the big bulky stuff. This is mostly small stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Controlled chaos. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, less of the control, really. Just chaos.
Sibk's got a question. Says, sorry if it's been asked, but do you prefer certain types of items? And do you find that certain categories are consistently more lucrative than others?
Yeah, I'll buy anything. I really like to look for unique and different stuff I just haven't seen before, because that's kind of what my bidders like. They like something they haven't seen, and it's, that might have a story with it. And the categories that always, antiques always do well, furniture does well. So sometimes it's a big, heavy piece, and I really don't want to mess with it, but I know it's going to sell for good money, and that's what my bidders want. So that's what I get.
I was going to ask as well, are you surprised quite often by unusual or strange things that someone consigns and you're kind of like really not sure this is actually going to sell, and then it surprises you?
Yes, every once in a while something really will surprise me, which is a great thing. And it always shows me that I don't know everything.
Sure.
I try to only turn away items that have shown a consistent track record of not selling. If somebody brings me a VCR, I'll say, hey, we've tried this several times, we just don't have the market for it, so we can't sell it.
Yeah. Well, it's better off that way than you do take it and it sells for a couple of dollars, and then they're even more pissed off because they had higher expectations. So it goes back to you saying that you're honest and open with your consigners, which I think you have to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The last thing I want to do is mislead somebody. If I tell somebody that they're going to get $500 for something and it goes for $100, they're going to have a really bad taste in their mouth. They're going to tell everybody how bad of an experience it was. Yeah. So I do not want to make somebody think they're going to get more money for something than they will.
Absolutely.
Just something that's come to mind, actually, John. Say if someone approaches you with an item they've got, and they've said that just for argument's sake that it's like a certain design or brand. Do you just take the consigner's word for it, or are there items that you'll do further checks on? So, for example, someone comes up to you and says, "Oh, I've got this Rolex," for example. Before listing it. I mean, have you had that happen?
No one's brought me a Rolex yet.
Well, no, not specifically.
Yeah. If they did bring me something as high into that, I'd have to go to my jeweler friend. I've got a friend that's a jeweler, and he knows that stuff really well. But yeah, there are certain things. Like somebody brought me some autographed pieces, and I deal a lot with sports memorabilia. And I just told him, I said, "Look, I'm not accusing you of anything, but I think this is a fake. I think somebody did this themselves. So you might have got it from somebody else, but I can't list it. So although we don't authenticate items, I can usually discern a fake from a real. And, we do always mark everything as is on our website, buyer beware. But the last thing I want to do is purposely mislead somebody. If I know something doesn't work or hasn't been tested, we'll say either this part of it doesn't work, it hasn't been tested. We've also got the preview. So a lot of people will come in and they'll plug things in and kind of test them out a little bit before they bid.
Okay. So just fill me in on so the auction, do they run for a week, or is it a few days? How long are they running and they're live?
They run a full week. They'll start on Mondays and they end on Sundays.
Okay. And can people view throughout that time, or do you have a day where people can come down? How does that work?
A day where they can preview?
Yeah.
So the previews are always Tuesday and Wednesday. So usually the 2 days after it goes live, they come to the warehouse and see things.
Okay, cool. So then you have to, you have employees as well. So you'd have to have somebody there to manage that side of things.
Right. I've got 5 employees now, and I'm always here on Tuesdays and Wednesdays because that's when people drop items off too. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays at the warehouse is just total utter chaos, stuff coming and going. And I've got 4 of my guys here on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then the other girl stays at home and does a lot of the advertising and things like that.
Wow. So they're the manic busy days then, yeah?
Oh yeah, it's fun. It's fun, busy, but it's definitely busy.
Okay.
It's actually a good question from Chad asking, do you network with other businesses? So if someone comes to you with an item that you don't necessarily want, do you refer them to someone else or anything like that? Do you have any of those relations?
Yeah, I've got a handful of those relations, actually. So I've got a friend who is a live auctioneer, and he really likes to do estate cleanouts. I don't know why. I hate to do estate cleanouts because it's a lot of work and a lot of manpower. Sometimes it doesn't really pay out. So if somebody calls and I go to their house and they've got maybe 10, 12 rooms of stuff that isn't always a good fit, sometimes I refer it to Max, my auctioneer friend. And I've also started working with a junk removal company. So a lot of the stuff they can't do anything with, they bring to me. And there's another estate company I've done a little bit of work with, and she sent some referrals my way.
So it always pays to do that, doesn't it? Just networking, because like you said, if they've sent stuff your way as well.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah, it really does pay to know people.
Just to answer Stephen Watling, I don't have any more breast friends. Yeah. I think ages ago I sold like one of those weird feeding pillow things that goes for like 40-50 pounds. No, I don't have a stock of those.
Krillin has just super chatted. He's trying to get us to pronounce
Mönchengladbach.
Oh,
isn't that a German football team?
It is Mönchengladbach.
Yeah, is it Mönchengladbach?
I think you should have got John to say that then, because we kind of know what it is. Sorry, Krillin, I messed that up. Yeah.
No, I think he wanted to hear to say it, so that's good.
Mönchengladbach. There you go.
Oh yeah, Krillin's a good guy. He's a New Yorker.
I actually, his videos they're short, but they're to the point, and they're actually really good. So definitely check out his channel. I'm enjoying watching his channel.
There was a question, an interesting one, kind of on a slightly different subject, really. I've lost it now.
Have you seen Dwayne's comment?
Somebody was asking us, what advice would we have for somebody who was thinking of giving up on reselling? I don't know if the person themselves was thinking of giving up. The thing is with that question, reselling isn't for everybody anyway. It's not easy. It's a lot of hard work. And I think you have to have a certain element of that buying and selling, wheeling and dealing within you anyway. So if it's not working out for you, it might just be that it's not your thing. So don't stress about it. But what would you guys say if somebody's thinking of packing in reselling?
I think that's good advice. It's just something you have to have a passion for. And even when I'm not making a lot of money or things aren't going the way, I still enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. It never feels like work. So if you don't have a passion for it and you're not enjoying it, it might not be for you. It might not be the passion, what you're meant to do, kind of like what Nick said.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I think the passion gets you through those times when you're like when you were setting up the business and money was just going out and you're thinking, when's it going to come back in? And
Yep.
I've been there a few times with different businesses I've set up. And if you don't have that core belief that this is what you want to do and this is what you love, then yeah, I can see that getting out is a very clear option. What about yourself, Sahir?
I mean, I'm just going to echo what you guys have said. It so comes down to passion. I mean, there's a saying, I think something along the lines of we all have to suffer one of two pains. There's like the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, and you've got to work out which of those is going to hurt you more. So if it is the pain of regret of not making something work, then even through tough times you will just struggle through. You will. I mean, I've shared on my channel, you guys know, I mean, Nick, you definitely know about, I've had times where sales haven't been great. I've been feeling low, but it doesn't cross your mind. I mean, yeah, you do get those silly thoughts, or maybe I'm doing it all wrong, or, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. You start second guessing yourself instantly. I mean, you could be having a great month the month before, but if this month isn't great, you instantly second guess yourself. But
I've been doing this as long as John has. Sorry to cut you off. Like 15 years in, and I get weeks where I think, why is this not working this week? And it's just that moment of doubt where you doubt yourself, and then you wake up the next day and it's fine, and you're just back on it again. But yeah, those little doubts are there. There's no doubt about that.
And for less experienced sellers, so for example, I've only been doing this for like 3 years. I can look at it when you guys are saying stuff like that, it gives me a lot of strength, because I think, well, if you guys can feel like that, it's okay for me to feel like that, but it doesn't mean I have to just pack up and quit. It just means I just have to burn through it.
Yeah. I don't think you'd be human if you didn't have times where, you had a little bit of doubt.
Yeah, definitely. And there's the other saying that comes up a lot where if you can find, if your job is something that you really are passionate about and you enjoy, you'll never have to work another day. And that's kind of why I've ended up doing this day in, day out for so long, because I naturally gravitate to it and I enjoy it. It doesn't, there are elements of this that are obviously work, some elements that you have to put the hours in and the kind of grind of it. But overall, I thoroughly enjoy this. So it's just easy for me to carry on through the bad times as well as the good. So,
and Bonafide's taken a more analytical approach to it. He says reselling is easy. Going against human urges like buying everything in sight is what gets people in trouble.
Yeah.
That's very basic but very true advice there from Bonafide Hustler Chris there.
Chris, some of us are still working on that issue. I'm still ironing out those issues. Okay. I think I'd exhausted my actual written down questions. How about that? That didn't take long.
Actually, there's 127 watching. That's awesome, guys. Appreciate everybody watching.
I think it's definitely, the appeal definitely of speaking to you about this was that you've started in the same place as pretty much everyone in the chat, but it just shows that, depending on who you are, your reselling journey is going to be unique to you. And obviously yours has taken you onto a path where you've like pretty much created your own platform, which, by the way, guys, is look at what I found, as you can see behind John there in neon lights. So I think it's interesting to see that it's taken you in that direction, and actually how I don't know of anyone else necessarily that's doing what you've done. Obviously, Craigslist Hunter's got his shop where people bring him stuff, and Dwayne's got his unique little hustle going on, which I think is fantastic as well. But it just shows that there's so many ways to skin a cat, as the saying goes.
Yeah, there definitely is. I always tell people to think outside the box. Just always be open to any kind of opportunities, and more opportunities and money will come your way when you do that, for sure.
But saying that is one thing, though, isn't it? And because everyone says think outside the box, but sometimes you have to actually do it, and it's a lot easier said than done, definitely. Just pop back into the chat.
I was just reading what Chris was saying there. He was giving out some advice. In his opinion, if you want to start winning at reselling now, donate all your hustles that you'll never list, etc., and then get around profitable resellers and see their model, and then make your own that fits you. Yeah, I could buy into that. definitely the make your own model that fits you, because how I do things is definitely not for everybody. I've never said it is. I think people make the mistake when they follow YouTubers that they think that's how to do it. It's not. It's just me sharing what I do. And John's a great example that, you know, John does things completely differently to how I do it. And that works for you. And you've built that up to be successful. So, yeah.
And getting around profitable resellers and seeing what they do. I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel here. You know, the smart thing is, I mean, I've heard Jim Rohn say this as well in his talks, where, you know, get around someone that's doing well, and you can learn so much quicker. And you mentioned yourself that you've got friends that are live auctioneers. I mean, did any of them have a part to play in the direction that you went?
I'm sorry, who was that?
Yourself, John. Like you said, you had friends that are like live auctioneers and in that business. I was wondering how much influence they had in you taking this path of starting your own, or not?
I'd say a little bit. The auctioneer friend I've made since I started this.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of those, I wouldn't say so. A lot of my friends and family thought I was a little bit crazy. I think when I decided to do this, like, you're going to do what? Okay. How is that going to work? You know? And I've even had a number of them tell me, like, you know, this has gone longer than I thought it would, and it's been more successful than I thought it would be. So I guess that's a good thing. Kind of on that note, I saw Lonnie asked earlier if there was ever a time when I thought it wouldn't work, if I thought I'd close up shop. I mean, there was a little bit, like Nick said earlier, there's days where you don't think it's going to work, but if you continually think about that, then it's not going to work. You know, it's kind of like, if you don't have the drive and you don't have the belief, if you yourself don't believe it's going to work, it's not going to work, because nobody else is going to have the faith in the business that you're going to have.
Yeah. And that's the tough road quite often, isn't it? The battle that goes on in here to quite often just to make that leap to start. That, for me, when in the various businesses I've set up over the years, it's that starting point. It's that having enough get up and go in you and belief in yourself when perhaps everyone around you is thinking you're a bit nuts, to still do it against all odds moment. And I remember hearing you say that people around you were saying, really, is that wise? Is that a good idea? That's exactly what people said to myself and my wife when we quit our pretty decent jobs way back when, 15 years ago, to go selling crap on eBay. Because that's essentially all I can describe it as, because that's all we did. And then that expanded into a retail outlet, and then we grew that, and then it's just evolved over the years to now. But yeah, a lot of our family thought we were insane because we had good jobs and we had the life set up, you know, and we just decided to opt out.
I think people automatically assume that you're not normal if you choose anything but employment, and I think that just comes with the territory a little bit. And I suppose that's maybe why we get some of the questions or the worries that we get, because we've talked about this before, where you know, when you tell family and they want to be supportive, but they have that perplexed look on their face, right? When they're trying to they're trying to be positive, like, yeah, like that kind of look. But you know, behind those eyes, it's like, what the, you know, like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's well put, actually. Yeah. My friends and family were really wanting to support it, but you could see that they were like in pain, like, you gave up that job for this?
Yeah.
That sort of attitude. We've just had a super chat in. 10K on the Bay has donated $10 to say, have a warm beer for me. Is beer really warm there? Not if you put it in the fridge, mate. No. we have fridges. We have ice in the UK. Yeah, it's fine.
We have reached that level.
I will have a beer for you later. I'm going out playing cards with friends tonight, so I will have a couple for you. Thanks for that.
Sib K's question here. To everyone, do you ever think or feel, okay, I'm not going to start picking up other things and keep focused on this general area rather than trying to learn another area? So I suppose, do you ever feel that you spread yourself too thin on you mentioned you buy anything. Do you ever feel that's got any downsides then, John?
I don't think so. I think as long as you don't invest a lot of money into the new avenues and the new categories, So I know watching a lot of different YouTubers, I've learned a bunch of stuff. By watching Lonnie Garage Flips, he bought a Sony Trinitron TV from like the 80s that I would have never, ever bought. But it was $2 and I saw what he got for his and I'm like, what the heck, I'll buy it. And now I'm looking for old Sony TVs. So I think you always got to keep your mind open. How would you guys answer that?
I think what you just said there was a good thing, because you don't necessarily have to spend any money. It's education. The only thing you've got to spend is a bit of time. So you know, it doesn't have to cost you to learn those things. You can just pick it up. I mean, Nick.
Yeah, I think if you restrict yourself that way, you're cutting out lots of profitable avenues that you could end up going down. But on the flip side of that, I know I've chatted with Zahir recently about some stores that I found on eBay, and they're so specialized and they're so niche, and they've got it made and they're happy to do it that way. But I mean, I've tried specializing in stuff like Lego, and we tried doing nothing but clothing. For me, that's just too restricting, because when I go out, I want to know that I don't know what I'm going to pick up. That's part of the joy of it for me. I go out in the morning to go around a load of car boot sales, and I have no clue what's going to come back in the car with me. Whereas if I'm only picking up Lego, it's like, I'm going to go and find some Lego again, and I'd be bored out of my mind.
And also,
fun?
And if you don't find anything, if you don't find what you're kind of almost tunnel visioned into looking for, then you'll come away saying, I couldn't find anything, when there probably were things that you could have picked up, but because you were too focused on a narrow set of what you were looking for, you may be losing out. So yeah, and I think we're all the same. I wouldn't restrict yourself unless, you know, you've found your niche and you are more than happy just doing that. Then yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. If that ticks all your boxes, then just stick to what you know. But it doesn't work for me. Bonafide says there's a huge difference between hanging out with resellers and then hanging out with profitable resellers. Ideally, you want to be in the second scenario. I mean, yeah, we mentioned if you hang out with people that know what they're doing, you're going to, you know, or at your or above your level, you're going to learn more quicker. So always makes sense.
Yeah. Lonnie says, sounds like when I went to bars when I was 20 years old, you never know what would end up in the car.
Apparently 10K on the Bay was reading an article about how to drink beer like a Brit. What war? Yeah, not sure that article was to be believed.
Probably written by an American.
Probably. Okay. In there.
Okay. Airplane's got a comment. A user called Airplane says, I believe that the best dealer is the one who stops reselling and goes on to do better and more lucrative ways of selling things, such as selling brand new goods. What would you guys say to that?
Well, again, if that works for them, and that's fine. It's the thing is, there's so many ways of doing this, and so many people are at different points on their journey. You know, I've had the successful high street stores and had huge turnover and made loads of money, and now we're doing this because it makes us happy and it makes us comfortable. And I've kind of opted out of the wanting to be, you know, super crazy rich. I know this isn't going to make me super crazy rich, but it's where I am, and it works for me. And there's so many different, I don't know, motivations for doing this, and you know, 5-year plans, 10-year plans. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think I know one reseller I think is kind of struggling with this right now. It's a jewelry, Good Used Goods. I saw him in the chat earlier. He's actually getting so much electronics from a source that recycles them. It's like an e-waste company. And I think it's taken up all his time. And it's one of those things where if you've got so much of one thing coming to you that you don't have to go look for other things, that might be a perfect scenario. It just depends on if you like it, if you like that setup. But I think he also likes to go out and find things too. So whenever he can, he's going out to garage sales and things. But I really don't think he has to because of all the stuff that's coming his way.
Yeah. And with a certain amount of success comes a certain amount of pressure and pressure on your time. And for me as well, when we were running ourselves ragged with the retail outlet we had for 8 years, there was a certain amount of stress that went with that. Whereas these days, with our foot a bit less off the pedal, we are so much more relaxed and, you know, happier, I think, in a strange way. We may be earning a lot less now because we're quite comfortable. but the fact that we have taken out the stress element is huge for us. So that works for us, definitely. I mean, do you find, talking about stress, when you were building up the business and you had all that pressure and money going out, was that a stressful time for you, John?
Absolutely, yeah. It's still stressful now, but not like it was. I didn't have an employee for the first year. So, I'd work 70, 80 hours a week. Every day I was doing something. But now I've got employees that do a lot of that work, so it's not nearly as stressful as it was.
How have you found employing people? Because we've been down that route, and I actually found that quite stressful, finding the right people, trusting people. It didn't help that a couple of the people we employed really stitched us up and stole from us and that sort of stuff.
Oh, no.
Have you had any bad experiences, or has it been good?
Knock on wood, I haven't had any yet. I've been really lucky.
Yeah.
A couple of the people I knew previously, I kind of recruited them to join the team. But so far, I've been really lucky with everybody. I'm getting ready to hire somebody else. So it is stressful interviewing and trying to find the right person, just because you never know. Until they really start working for you, you just don't know.
No, it's true. So I was just distracted by the chat. There's so much chat going on, which is fantastic. We've currently got 129 viewers, so thanks for dropping in. If you've joined us late, we're here chatting with John, the Cincinnati picker. There'll be a link to John's channel below and a link to Zahir's as well, so make sure you're going to check those out. How long? Oh, we're nearly going an hour. We'll wrap it up on the hour. So if you've got any more questions for us to touch on before we wrap this up, drop them in the chat.
I think 10K on the Bay made a comment in regards to what you said about jewelry. They've got a friend who has 100% free inventory from a recycling center. And so the only cost is the labor and the processing and a 30% return rate, but that's built into the model. So it's challenging, but people do it. Like you said, if you can handle it. I mean, I don't know, personally, I'd probably get really quickly bored of dealing with exactly the same stuff all the time. And I mean, I love electronics and hi-fi, but if that's all I did, I think I'd find that a bit of a challenge. As so I suppose it does depend on the person. I mean, you said, Nick, many times that you got up to a point where you got fed up of dealing with just Lego when you used to do just Lego. I mean, John, have you ever done anything like that where you've been heavily into one thing and then changed, or since you started you've been?
Yeah, well, when I started it was all sporting goods, so I guess I got a little tired of it, but I've gradually just grown more and more of what I've been looking for, and that always keeps it interesting.
Because you get to mix it in now, I suppose, as well, don't you, with all the other stuff, so you can get excited about it again because you're not just dealing with it. So
right. Absolutely. Abdel asked, when you started reselling, any profit you made, you reinvested into the business. When did you start to pay yourself? I paid myself very little, basically just enough to, chip in and pay the bills for my wife and I. I still pay myself very little. I don't make very much money at all because so much of it goes back into the business. I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. When you start a business, you don't become super profitable the first few years. It takes a lot of investment, and you've constantly got to reinvest, because if you don't, you're going to go backwards. Especially with websites and a store. Like, I'm sure you, Nick, with your store, you were constantly having to get lights or different products and constantly upkeeping it and reinvesting and getting the word out. So there's a lot of money that goes back into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. It was the same story for us with our first shop. We took the bare minimum out, and we were leaving most of the profit back in the business and investing in stock, new cabinets, expanding, promoting, all of the things that come alongside a business that perhaps if you've not had one, you don't realize how much money that takes. And then, but it so easily can not work out. I mean, we had only a year ago, we set up a clothing outlet for my wife, and we had all the same amount of investment, and it didn't work out financially. So you have to then reach a point where you cut and run. So it doesn't always work out. But we've had a chat with Zahir about this, about do I regret, or do we regret that? Not at all, because I'd rather try something, give it 100% and perhaps fail financially than not try at all. But yeah, it just goes to show that no matter how much work you put in, not everything works out. But you're totally right. For the first couple of years, if not 3 or 4 years, we were putting most of our profit back into our retail outlet. And then eventually we started taking a bigger and a bigger salary. when we could, and when the business was set up and running at a profitable level.
Yeah. I think you made a good point when you said that you don't regret it, you know, because you'll always learn from failures.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kirsten's Curiosities says, yeah, we've always plowed our money back into business. Hopefully we'll reap the rewards soon. So, yeah, I mean, it seems even if you haven't had a brick and mortar store, it's common sense that the more you put back into your inventory, you know, the more you're going to be able to grow faster, I suppose. So it's just whether you're set up to be able to do that, and what your expenses are. Yeah.
And another way we did it, once our business became really profitable, we plowed most of our profits into our mortgage, and we had an even longer plan then, and then which affords us, now we kind of paid all the profits forward, so now we're in a financial position where we can live a much more relaxed sort of lifestyle and not have all of that mortgage to pay off, etc. So we kind of paid it forward. So
that's a smart way to do it, Nick. Absolutely.
So yeah, well, we've managed to hit an hour, and that flew by.
It did.
So thanks for coming on, John. Again, John, the link to John's channel's below. I implore you to go over there and check that out. Link to Zahir's channel's below as well. I see Kirsten in the chat over there. If you've not seen the chat that Kirsten had with Zahir, go and check that one out. It's a fantastic chat. And yeah, I guess we'll wrap that up. So thanks ever so much, John, for coming on.
Thanks for having me on. This was fun.
No, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was epic to get to chat to you, John. Actually, it was really interesting with the different angle on it all.
Yeah. So I knew that would be interesting. It's great to have someone who is a reseller on, but doesn't, you know, perhaps.
Yeah, it's so different. Yeah, it's actually very different to anyone that we've spoken to before. I'm not just like saying that because you're in the chat. You know, I'm just.
No, it was fun. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for all your questions. I hope we answered a few of your questions. Thanks to the guys who super chatted me. That blows me away as ever. We've currently got 126 viewers. If you do enjoy the chats, please give us a thumbs up. It just lets us know that, you know, you're enjoying what we do. I'll be back with a chat on Sunday with Andrea. Zahir, are you doing your Friday hangout?
Yep.
So join Zahir on his channel for Friday. And then John, when's your next video lined up?
So I'm doing the Reseller 6-pack on Sunday. It is 8 o'clock Eastern time on Tanya Thrifty Treasures channel.
Fantastic. Yep. So go and check that out as well. I tend to watch those the day after now.
Because that's 1 a.m. UK time. So
yeah, a little bit late.
I did my stint and it nearly killed me. Okay, guys. Right. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you all soon. Bye for now.
Later.
Bye, guys.